What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I have some new news concerning Iron Mike Tyson. Kid Dynamite himself had a lot to say about Anthony Joshua. He stated that Anthony Joshua, will come back. He will revenge his loss. He made a mistake in the sport of boxing. That's anything that anybody can do. And he still thinks that Anthony Joshua, in his opinion, he thinks that he's better than all the other heavyweights out there. And, that's a very bold statement coming from Mike. But I can understand why Mike himself can empathize with Anthony Joshua. First of all, they were similar-like losses. They were both underdogs that beat Mike and Anthony Joshua. I think Mike's was by far the most shocking, but that was about 30 years ago. You know what I'm saying? So this has been the most shocking upset lately. I will say that, me counterpunching that. However, to go in depth with that particular fight, people don't know that Buster Douglas already had 5 losses. People don't know that Buster Douglas was a driven fighter and under very abnormal circumstances that he was driven to win a fight. People don't know that his father died right the weekend of that. Right when he flew to Japan, his father passed away. Okay? And that gave him that sense of, let me do this for my deceased father. You know what I'm saying? So, on Mike Tyson's end, he was allegedly involved in orgies right before the day before the fight in Japan, right? All the freaky deaky shit goes on in Japan, right? So, him and Bobby Brown, because Bobby Brown was the one that came out with that, like, hey man, I'm pretty much the reason I partake in the reason, of Mike Tyson's first fall from grace, simply because, we were slamming chicks in Japan, like, orgy style, on top of, the Vaseline that was in Mike Tyson's corner, and he's allergic to Vaseline, so what the hell is it doing there? I guess they just figured he wouldn't get hurt or whatever, and he just normally knocks people out, so they'll go home early, knock out Buster Douglas, Japan, give the Japanese a good show, Mike Tyson, but that didn't happen that way, you know what I'm saying? So a lot of things were involved in that people don't know about, just like a lot of things I feel that's involved with Anthony Joshua that people don't know about and don't want to talk about and won't reveal, and Anthony Joshua, Eddie Hearn, whoever is around him will deny it all or won't talk about it whatsoever, right? So, and that's the integrity side of him. That's that integrity part. Like, no, nothing went wrong. No scrapes, no bruises, no knockouts, no bad luck, no rough camps and sparring, none of that. They denied it all, right? And regardless of what it is, he denied it. He takes full responsibility for the loss. And I think what it is, they're not really focused on what happened. They're focused on what can happen. I think that's what they're doing. They're not going to dwell on the past. It's a loss. It is what it is. And they're going to get better next time. And, of course, you see him training. You see him doing a lot of things, charity events and stuff like that. Honestly, I think he needs to fucking rest. You know what I mean? But, one thing he did not deny is pressure. And you guys know how I feel about pressure, and broke down what pressure could do to anybody. It causes you to rush. It causes you not to plan, not to prepare like you're supposed to. It causes you to do a lot of things. And when you rush things, you're going to miss things. And when you miss things that haven't been touched, like road work and other things, I think the guy was doing too much. I think he's still doing too much. But, I think now he's going to focus more on the actual fight instead of everything surrounded by his image. And I think that was the problem, or one of the problems, rather, that caused him to fall from grace. Okay, but back to Mike Tyson. you know, Mike Tyson still thinks he's the best heavyweight out there. Now, let me counterpunch this. We're not going to know that until he gets his revenge. And then see, here's the thing. If he loses by Ruiz, if he loses to Ruiz again, Ruiz will then establish himself as one of the top heavyweights. Now, here's the tricky thing. A lot of people will write off Anthony Joshua like a bad check. And the funny thing about it is, they still won't know how good he will do against other fighters if he never gets that opportunity. Just like Ruiz, we never knew what he could do until he did it. You know, on other normal circumstances, he wouldn't have got the shot that he got to prove that what he could do in the ring, right? But he received to do that, and he got that opportunity, and he showed people that I belong somewhere. So even if Ruiz loses, okay, let's put it this way. If Ruiz loses, then he still has a pony in the show, because I still beat AJ once upon a time. You know, it's going to be a lot of people were going to take him lightly. And fine, go in there and fight him again, right? Wilder fought Brazil. He was once beaten by Joshua. Now he's beaten by Deontay Wilder. Knocked out. But you look at that, that doesn't mean that Ruiz can't beat these other guys. You know what I'm saying? It's just all about opportunity and who fights who. So what Mike said, I won't disagree with Mike. That's his own opinion. Shit, he has his own opinion. But at this end of the day, that remains to be seen until Anthony Joshua. First of all, he has to get past Ruiz to even have the opportunity to fight the top other two guys. You know what I'm saying? Because they're going to write him off like a bad check and talk all kind of shit without even fighting him. And it's the funny thing about boxing is, that doesn't mean because he loses to Ruiz again, meaning he can't knock one of those guys out. You know, and that's the funny thing about it. So a lot of times you got to fight these harder fights, which Wilder, who would say Wilder would be a hard fight for him? It's a dangerous fight. I think a most difficult fight would be Fury, but Wilder would be more dangerous because of his, of course, obvious punching power, right? But as far as boxing Deontay and his height, and he's parallel with his height and a little taller, right? I don't think you'd have any problem. That's not his kryptonite, tall men. His kryptonite is short men. So, you know, a lot of times people think that this will go a certain way, and it ends up going a totally different way, you know, because everybody jumps on the bandwagon of the winner, okay? And not really looking at these two and how they fight. Just like everybody thought that Ruiz would lose to Joshua just because Parker beat Ruiz once upon a time, right? And Joshua beat Parker. Same shit. But that didn't happen, did it? No. So people need to wake up and understand boxing. Boxing is about matching up certain opponents with certain styles. And the more casuals get that in their head, they could really jump off the bandwagon for a minute, take a walk around where the hell they are and acknowledge, hey, you know, this shit's real. You know what I'm saying? Like, this could actually be a good fight. You know? That's why I believe in all these fighters should be fighting each other. Because we won't know until they do to see who's the best. Why do you think people were so surprised when Ali beat Foreman? I'm going to tell you the number one reason, right? The number one reason, besides all the obvious shit. Sure, Foreman was the up-and-coming guy. He was 40-0 with 35 knockouts. He was big, strong. But what was the main reason? He knocked and demolished. I mean, he destroyed Joe Frazier. What did Joe Frazier do? Joe Frazier beat Ali. And he beat Ali. This was a driven Frazier. This was the Frazier his kids used to come home from school crying, talking about these kids are laughing and calling my daddy an ugly monkey and all this shit because Ali and talked up all this shit. You know what I mean? That it got back to the kids, and now the kids are making fun of his kids, and he's looking at this is my friend. I loaned this motherfucker money. I've got to go in there and whoop his ass. You see what I'm saying? He was driven. See, never underestimate a driven person. Never. You know what I mean? Never underestimate a driven person, because that particular person will put it on his mind, right? Like, look at Andy Ruiz. Look at Buster Douglas. Look at all these guys, these examples of what I'm telling you. If you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything. So the question is, guys, is Anthony Joshua driven like those guys once were? Will Andy Ruiz come in driven once before, or will he get ate up or consumed with this stardom, right? This newfound stardom. You know, Jimmy Kimmel and, you know, all this good stuff, parades. He ain't had that before. You know what I'm saying? Buster Douglas, he got his own fucking boxing game after he knocked out Mike Tyson, right? But what happened? You know? Frazier's a whole different entity. But in that fight, they all had that spirit of drivenness. So we'll see if Anthony Joshua has it. Anyway, you guys tell me what you think about Mike Tyson's statements. Of course, please subscribe. Thank you for going down memory lane with me. And you guys have been counterpunched. Peace.